Hello everybody, hope you're doing good. Welcome back to another episode of Let's Draw. And today we're going to be drawing Teela. And I think Teela may be the conclusion of our Masters of the Universe series. That's kind of how I'm feeling right now, but we'll see where this ends up. We've done Skeletor, we've done Evelyn, we did He-Man last time. And I think it's good that we go back to the female side of the equation here and round out the heroes team with Teela. And if you're not familiar with Teela, she is one of the top generals on the good guy side of things, and she is sort of like a adopted daughter figure for the sorceress, who is that bird lady. If you've seen her, and the bird lady can take the form of a bird, and the bird's name is Zor, Zoar. So what I'm thinking we might do here is we might draw Teela, and then we might put Zor, the falcon form of the sorceress, kind of like in the background. So that way we kind of show that connection, and we sort of sneak in another character from the universe without completely burning that token, right? Because we could still show the sorceress in the future if we wanted to. So thank you everybody for coming along for the journey, and I hope you're doing something creative. Remember to save often, and let's jump into this. So Teela, I guess I should probably open up. I have a image from the cartoon over here, so I know what her outfit looks like. Where is that? Here we go. There we go. There's my there's my reference of her outfit there. And so she there's some similarities here with the Evelyn outfit. So I don't want to ignore that aspect, but at the same time I want to acknowledge that some of the similarities between the designs stemmed, I think, from the original toy line, and reusing some of the plastic molds and things. Like, they wanted to, I think, probably reduce the complexity of different bodies and stuff, and so we don't want to limit her design completely based on that original issue or that original challenge, but we still want it to feel like it's genuine to her design. So we'll kind of, as with all the other characters in this series, we've sort of tried to stay genuine to them, but we're injecting a little bit of our own flair along the way. Welcome in everybody. Zane, good to see you again. So without further ado, let's jump into this. And again, if you are new here, I appreciate your support, and remember to like and subscribe. So starting off, we're going to think about basically a stick figure, right? And I'm thinking we might do a sort of a hybrid. If you've been following along, we've had a couple different strategies for approaching this style. He-Man, we diverged a little bit, and I'm thinking this one might be borrowing from the He-Man process, but maybe not the entire process. You'll see as we go. Let's just get into it. The first thing is I'm going to work on a lighter background for this initial block-in phase, and I have my drawing glove this time on, which means we have +3 to drawing skill. So we'll see if that actually matters or not. And I have warmed up a little bit today. I was working on some stuff earlier, and so I don't feel like I'm totally fresh to the canvas for the stream. Let's make sure we get the right hard eraser in here. And as usual, I sort of like to, actually, let's do, maybe we'll do a tilt like this. So much of this character can be properly established in these initial sort of marks. We're going to try to get some nice contrapposto in here with the shoulders and the hips. We'll put this leg straight. Be a little far out. It's far out, dude. And then we'll have this leg bent, and then I think we'll have a little bit of a downward angle on the ground plane here. Do something like that. As usual, I'm making the legs too long. Let's bring those in a little bit. It's essentially just making a nice stick figure for us to build on top of. Make sure I'm looking over at my Teela image over here. Maybe we'll have her head tilted a little bit. So I like to paper doll these, or kind of action figure pose these stick figures and play around with what might be a good option. We'll do the flip dance. Make sure nothing's looking too weird. All right, feeling pretty reasonable so far. And I have that flip on just a single button because I want to be able to do that as easily as possible and encourage myself to flip. So I've got her I'm thinking her hand's on her hip, but actually she probably wants to be holding her sword. I think we want that sword in there. So maybe I'll pull this arm forward a little bit here. And she can be doing sort of like an overhand grip on the sword. And then she has a shield as well, which is not in this image, but I know she has one. Did I save an image of her shield? I think I have a picture of one of the toys. Yeah, here's a toy of hers. So I see that toy shows that she has a shield. So I want to put the shield in here as well. So we'll think about a shield there. The mic's turned down. It's still quiet. Let's try boosting that. Okay, how's that mic volume sounding? Is that better? Okay, thanks. Yeah, for some reason my system likes to just change my audio settings just for fun without me telling it to. I don't know why. So thank you for mentioning that. In the recording before I upload it to YouTube, I'll get in there and I'll make sure I boost the audio of the portion before I just did that modification. So if you're watching the recording of this, hopefully you won't even realize what was going on. You have the same thing whenever you connect your question 3 to your PC. What's a question 3? Quest 3. Oh, got it. Yeah, that's like a VR thing, right? Just kill that line there, and I want to kind of like start to feel out some of the subtle angles we might have. I think that arm's a little far out there. The more you do this, the more you realize that it's so important to just spend enough time in this phase getting this thing to look right as a stick figure, because you really don't want to be changing your mind about core parts of the pose later. I think that shield, though, feels a little low. I wonder if we could do... Oh, maybe we could do something where it's like kind of like a strapped to her arm here. That could be kind of cool, right? I think we might try that. Yeah, you think it's working? Okay, that's good to hear. I feel like we might be able to work with this. One thing you can kind of remember about creating poses is how the body is well, it's like it's full of all these counterbalances, right? So if you have the shoulders doing this and you have the pelvis doing this, you kind of know that there's a crunch happening on the side of the body, and that's where the weight is being supported. So you want like this leg to be solid, and then this leg you could have it do whatever, right? Like maybe it's, you know, up like some kind of a karate pose, or in this case it's just a casual leg bent. If you put this crunch on the side with the leg that is not bearing the weight, it's going to look unnatural. It's kind of the same thing with somebody who's you know, in motion, and you want the arm and the leg to be opposite in terms of which one's forward. You don't want, you know, nobody ever walks with their arm and their leg forward on the same side. So there's just a little bit of like thinking about body mechanics when you make the poses, and if you keep that in mind, your pose will usually look pretty decent. But there's also subtle things like, you know, is she maybe like arching her back a little bit? And these are things that are a little maybe trickier to convey in this very simple form. You know, like her shoulders sort of like rolled back or rolled forward. Those are some things that, like, you know, we can start to kind of suss that out as we get a little further along. Let's do just a quick little like check here to see if our proportions are feeling decent. I think that's feeling pretty good for head heights there. And if we're going for realism, we could probably pull the legs in just a little bit. You know, because you kind of want this length here and this length here to be kind of in the same zone there. We might elongate the legs a little bit to give it sort of a feminine vibe. Okay, yeah, I think that's probably a reasonable starting point. So now here's the question: is at what point do we switch to the light on dark? And I was mentioning how I wanted to kind of do a hybrid process. I think maybe we'll do one more pass dark on light, and then I think from there we'll go into the lit thing. So the difference between this one and the He-Man one is, with the He-Man one we did the refined drawing, and we actually blocked all the shadows in on the drawing, and then we did this like inverse thing. So in this one we're not going to block the shadows in on the light paper version. We're going to just do a drawing, and then we'll just go right into the light on dark for blocking in all of like the shadow shapes, or I guess the inverse of that in that situation. Hopefully that makes sense, and if it doesn't, that's okay, because we're just going to do it and you will see it come together. Okay, so I guess, you know, usually what I like to do is just kind of like figure out the nude form first before I worry about the costuming. So we'll sort of work out that stuff first here, and then Is this document high enough resolution? I feel like what we should do is we should also just scale this up to a little bit more of what we will probably end up doing for the size on the canvas. And then we get a little bit more resolution to work with. Yeah, that's better. So one thing to be aware of is that different brushes have a different need in terms of resolution. If it's got a lot of texture and it's got a lot of features going on, then you know, it's going to be resolution hungry, and you have to make sure you feed it the proper resolution, otherwise it's going to be doing all kinds of funky stuff on you. Find that chin a little bit there. So I like to kind of think about like the skull a little bit when I'm blocking in a head. You don't have to go crazy with it because it's not going to be a skull. It's going to be a real fleshed out face at some point. But you know, it's kind of cool to think about like the sockets and you know where how the eyes kind of rest in the sockets. Especially if you're in digital, where you know you can easily just kind of get rid of some of this stuff once you feel like you got it blocked in. And I don't want to go too far with this this face here because again she's going to be put into that other style. But we'll just kind of create very simple, some very simple shapes there for her eyes. Cut that a little bit. Flip that. I wonder, I guess maybe she could have, let's see if we play around with the, maybe she could have a little more of a stern mouth expression. Let's drag this reference over here so I can see that crown. She's got like a tiara type of thing going on. I guess we can get her hair shape going. She has, it's like a kind of a simple like swept back sort of style. Lower her eyebrow a little bit there. It's humbling to see someone block out the placement of forms where you'll watch a tutorial and they just go for it because they've done it so many times. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think sometimes those things can just feel a little bit daunting, right? You're like, man, what the heck? They just drew it perfectly out of the gate. And I think, you know, if we were not concerned about capturing a certain sort of feel with her, if I was kind of just trying to do like a generic whatever, I think I could probably do a little less exploration, but we're trying to be a little bit particular here about her sort of look and feel. So, okay, so the crown comes up like this. And I think we can definitely make it look cool. We can bring some details into that later, depending on what's going on with the lighting. That's one thing I always do, is I always tinker with the face shape a lot, because it can change the character of a person dramatically. Is that like the jaw shape, the chin, all that stuff. And I guess, which way is she? Is she going to be looking probably a little bit to the left? I don't know. I'll just put some little dots in there for now, because we'll work on that with the other style of lighting. But I just want to have a subtle reference in there for myself that that's kind of what we're going for, I think, with the look. And then she has this, like, well, I'm forgetting I was going to kind of do the nude form first before we got into the clothing, but I think maybe I'll just put this collar in now, because it's such a crazy prominent shape here. And then there's like these kind of like decorative details here. And it has a very sort of iconic. Let's zoom out here, make sure we're not being too ignorant of the entire image. Put a little triangle in there for that shadow so we can see the shape better. Yeah, I don't. This collar, it looks like paper thin in the cartoon. I guess we can kind of, we can kind of give it a little. Ooh, careful with that symmetry there. Yeah, we could try something like that. Okay, and then she has like a open shoulder situation in the classic cartoon, and then on this toy I'm looking at, she has like some kind of like a cape thing or something. So maybe we'll give her like a little half cape going on, something. Although I don't know if I like the I want to kind of keep her body silhouette, so maybe we'll kind of, I guess we could go really long with it, and then just should we do that? Should we just go with a cape? Maybe. Yeah, maybe we just go with a cape. Capes are cool and dramatic. I feel like she could be a caped character. We'll tinker with that shape as we go, but I think that's seeming like a cool idea. And then her outfit, it has kind of like a Roman gladiator sort of a vibe going on, and she's got some armor, like she has a gauntlet type thing, and so I'm sort of wondering if yeah, maybe we'll put some details on this. That seems like a good call. You don't have to be specific about it yet. I'll give her a decent shoulder muscle there. She's like wielding her heavy weaponry and battling foes, so that tricep might be a little bit big. Let's get the hand sort of blocked in here. And what's the sword look like? Okay. Got a little handle there, and then the hilt. Well, let's figure out an angle for this first. So we probably want it to be sort of tilted like this. Might be. ADD brain. I was like going back up there tinkering with the face. That always happens. You can establish an angle by just drawing a box first, right? Like figure out what's the angle of that hilt. And then, okay, so it's got sort of a triangular shape, and then it has these sort of curly bits on the sides. So something like that. Is that too big? That feels maybe a little large. Let's scale that in. Okay, then it has kind of a cool blade shape. It's sort of thinner and then it comes out. Let's save our work. If you're doing something, remember to save your work. Let's put a line through here. Oops, it's a little bit thick. There we go. Okay. So that's kind of the basic vibe that has, and then this part has a decorative shape on it as well at the top. Yeah. Be careful I don't get too wrapped up in the details at this phase. We're gonna need to redefine all this stuff later. Okay, so there's that sort of piece there. Okay, so the rest of her outfit here is kind of a high cut one piece bodysuit sort of a vibe. And let's make sure we get some overlap there. So there's like a really prominent decorative feature in the center. It's like a big it's kind of weird. I'm looking at it trying to understand it. So there's like a medallion in the center here and it looks clearly metal, but then there's these shapes down here that look, the shape of them is as if they're cloth, but they look like they're metal. So I think we'll have to just sort of, I mean, not that we're rendering this in color and with like materials and specularity. Well, we do a little spec at the end, but like, I think we can maybe be a little bit vague as long as we get the shape in there. And then it looks like on the toy they decided to go with like a kind of like a belt of like medallions, and I think that's kind of a cool vibe, so maybe we'll do that. And then she has these let's try to make her legs look reasonable. Actually, she has these like knee, where's the rest of the, here's another situation where the toy and the cartoon deviate a little bit, but I kind of like the toy has like these knee pad things that the design on them is mimicking the design on the torso, and so I think I like that. She does have fur at the top of her boots in both versions, so we gotta kind of roll with that. I don't mind that. It's kind of a cool little like material change. And then she's got some straps on her boots. Indicate some straps there. And nothing too crazy, it looks like, in terms of the shoe design. In fact, it feels like they're kind of sandal-like. They're sandal-inspired, even though they're not open-toed. Because there's like some wraps that go over the top here. I think maybe we'll angle that a little more towards us. And we'll scale it up just slightly. My tendency is to make the feet a little too small. And I think everybody has tendencies like that with certain features. And it's just fine as long as you're sort of aware of that, right? You can kind of look out for those sorts of things. Okay, now we have this other leg coming from over here. Let's make sure we give her enough mass on her thigh there. She should probably look like she has some pretty strong legs, though they don't need to be asymmetrical in their size. Okay. And this leg is a little more sideways, so we'll angle that knee pad a little more over like that. Here's the furry boot top. Let's flip just for a sanity check here. Make sure that's looking all right. Let's carve off a little bit of that mouth there. Okay, good. Okay, and then a little bit of a sole to that boot, some straps on the top, and some straps like that. Okay, now this arm, well, we'll do something like that, and then let's see, we'll do a hand where I'm trying not to make the hands too boring, you know, like try to have them doing something kind of interesting. So maybe she'll have like a little fun like finger flare. It's a technical term. This will kind of be like a shadowed shape back here, and then this index finger will be kind of like a little more prominent. And then again, we got this kind of symmetrical design going on, which you'll notice that that's a common thing is heroes tend to have like more of a symmetrical design, and then villains you'll play with more of that asymmetry. And some kind of design going on there. I don't want to work on the resolving that right now. It's not really worth it. Okay, and then she has these really cool, I guess I didn't have to worry about the tricep size because she's got these really, really cool prominent like arm bracers, arm bracelets, arm something. These things. She's got those things. And then I suppose this one probably goes right around here. That looks about right. And then maybe we'll do, let's see, this cloak can probably come like this. And we'll just do kind of like a circular sort of a deal with it. And then, oh, you know what we could do? Because I was saying we could have the shield sort of connected to her forearm. Just to give it a little unique flair. So maybe we can have the straps kind of like this. And maybe I'll have the shield curve in a little bit so we see the edge here. I guess you wouldn't see it. Whoops. You wouldn't see it as much there. I don't like the angle. Let's rotate the angle a little bit. Lasso tool for the win. There we go. Maybe more like that. Yeah. Actually, I'm going to cut it and paste it because it's overlapping the arm now. Okay. All right, let's get a drink of water here. It's actually raining here today, and that's, although it's winter here, and it wouldn't be unusual to think of rain during winter, I'm in Southern California where it's very dry. So a rainy day is a pleasant surprise here. And although it's very cold, and I'm trying to make sure I'm staying warm because if your hands get cold, I'm sure you know, it's really like your joints can get stiff and it just gets harder to draw and stuff. So I try to make sure that my hands don't get cold. And it's kind of hard to draw with like warm gloves on, right? Because warm gloves are thick. So I can't really do that. Although I do have fingerless gloves that I wear if I'm doing certain things, like I can 3D model. I can do mouse activities, mousing tasks fairly okay with fingerless gloves, but as soon as I need to use my tablet and draw, then it's kind of a no-go. Yeah, icy hand syndrome. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that tends to ruin things, so try to keep our hands warm. Now here is also a great time for us to potentially like liquefy anything that we want to kind of tweak about the pose. If we want to kind of like angle things a little bit more. It's much easier to do in this phase than it would be later on, where we're going to have marks that we want to keep nice and crisp. Okay, so that I kind of like that tweak, but I feel like I maybe went a little too far with it, so let's see, do I... There's a certain sort of angle I want to the upper torso that I don't know that I'm quite getting it. Let's see. Sometimes it can just be some of these like the detail lines that are giving the wrong impression. As you know, like a contour line that's misplaced can give a totally flattening effect. Like if you've got an arm that's supposed to be coming at you, right, and here's like the cylinder of the arm, and then you put a line on it like that. It's like, what is that shape now, right? Like that's super weird. And I see actually students do this sometimes, is that they'll have a good angle for the shape, and then they put something on the shape that defies the shape, or it doesn't reinforce the shape's angle and completely flattens it. And you know, those are what we call like hieroglyphics, right? Where it sort of doesn't make sense in terms of volume. It's more of just like it becomes like an abstract graphic shape at that point, which those can be very powerful, but not in that way, not with that example. Okay, so now we want to just kind of see, like, is it worth us maybe going for it in terms of the light on dark approach? Like, do we have enough of an idea of where we want to go with this? I think that she's in a reasonable spot, but I think we want to probably put in the falcon, right? Zor, the falcon behind her. I think that might be nice to block that in as well. So let's just do a new layer. And let's think about... a falcon here. Get the, let's see, I guess we can probably go for, think about the body of the bird down here, and then feet, his claws down here, and then his, I guess her, right? It's a her in this case. Her wings. I'm not going to get into the specific feathers at this point. We can do that later, but I just kind of go for a shape like that. And as with a lot of the background elements we've been doing on these, we've been getting away with a little bit of symmetry and mirroring to start us out. And then we sort of build in a little asymmetry with the paint over. So I think I'll just mirror some of this. But we need to get this tail in here first, the tail feathers. And then I think we can take this shape here and we can just mirror this over like this. And I think we can have a little bit of it kind of lost behind her head. I don't think that there's anything too important about like the claws or the tail feathers. I think most importantly, we just want that nice wingspan. We want to get the head in there. So I think that's probably a good... Oops, did we merge that with her? I don't want to merge that with her. I want to have it separate. Yeah, we did. Okay. Get that beak shape a little bit clearer there. Yeah, okay, we'll refine that in the next pass. Let's see. Anything else that we want to sort of block in? I wonder if that, let's see. Does that want to just be bigger? Like, is it cooler if it just clips off the pad? I don't want a tangent. Let's see. Maybe we can move her down a little bit. Let's move her down just slightly. Like, maybe it's just better to just have it be bigger, right? That might be cooler. And then I'll put a mask on this layer and erase some of the bottom of it that we're not seeing. Just so that we can be non-destructive in this erasing pass. Because if we move the bird and we realize we want some of that back, then we can just get rid of the alpha, right? Or paint the alpha differently. Okay, cool. I think that's probably going to work for us. So I'm going to go ahead and brighten this up. We're going to make it white. We're going to do a merge copy. I'm going to go ahead and invert this. I'm going to lower the opacity. Oops, actually, let's do this. I'm going to take a layer below, make it black. We're going to lower the opacity so we just see a little bit of it there. And I think I'll colorize it as well so that we have a clear distinction between our underdrawing and the stuff we're going to be doing on top. And now we can come in with the white and start to figure out where we're going with this. I feel like we may want some stuff back here on the sides. So we might just do some like terrain back there, like some cool mountainous terrain or something to give us a little bit of information in that area. I don't know that there's anything specific thematically that we could put there that would relate to her. Because we've done Castle Grayskull, right? We did like a big throne with Evil Lyn. With Skeletor, we put this like skull gate kind of thing behind him, which I thought worked. Um, so yeah, I don't know that there's anything in particular that I'm thinking would be necessary for the background, but we still may want just a little bit of terrain information there. So we might do some fill in there for compositional reasons. All right. So we're working with white now. And it's funny because when you zoom in, you know, it's like a lot easier to see that underdrawing, and I don't want it to be too distracting. And I apologize because I know you guys probably can't see that nearly as well as I can here in person on my monitor, but it's there and I can see it, and that's what's important. So the if I actually wait, let's see, let's do this. If I set this to difference, I'm curious. I'm going to play with something here. Where is difference? I don't use this too much, but okay, it's there. Okay, so now if I set that to difference and I paint white here. No, but let's see. If I do... trying to think how to do this. I'll explain what I'm going for. What would be cool is if I could see the underdrawing, whether I have it dark or light. And you'd think that difference would work, but difference only... Oh, actually, you know what? It's because... Right. It's because I'm painting on top. And I don't need to paint on top, right? I can paint underneath if that's set to difference. Sorry, I'm going off on a weird tangent here. You guys probably aren't following me on this, but basically what I'm thinking is if I want to like think about this area as maybe let's just block in some light here and then let's erase some shadowed areas. What you'll notice is that this, I'll zoom in so you can see it. This light area that I have, I can see the underdrawing still because it's showing it dark on light. But then this area that's black, I can see light on dark. And that's because I have my underdrawing set as difference. So it's always going to try to show something, whether it's lighter or darker. And the only thing that I had to do to make that work was I had to just make sure that as we're painting this white layer that we're underneath the underdrawing. And that was where I was sort of getting a little bit of a mental hang up. Was underdrawing, you think, oh, that's got to be underneath, but in this case it needs to be on top. So I don't know, maybe there's something cool there for you guys to play around with. But the reason that's kind of nice in some cases is because, you know, if there's areas that are like heavily lit, like let's say we just wanted this part of her face to be sort of mostly lit, and there's very selective shadow areas like her eye, it's kind of nice to just kind of like pop in a lot of light, a big light shape, and then erase some of the shadow shapes. Like that might be a cool way to approach that. As I've said a million times during this whole process, that this is like kind of an experiment for me, doing things this way, and that's fun. Yeah, doing light on dark like this is a little bit of a puzzle. It's kind of cool. Do we see? I guess we don't really see her ears, right? Because her crown kind of like comes up and over. And I recognize that in some ways it feels like I'm sort of just saying the same thing I already said over again, but I assure you that the underdrawing is guiding me, is helping me, versus just kind of going for it, which we did on some of the first ones. I felt like I was, just searching for the right shapes a little bit more. Whereas if I have this pass underneath, I can kind of like rely on it a little bit to guide me. But it is a game of push and pull, though. Let's see, do we show a little bit more of the... I'm going for like standard kind of 3/4 lighting here. Nothing too crazy. Think about where we might have some... some light hitting the other side of the form. And this may be another situation where I want to, oops. Where I want to maybe just pop in a bunch of light and then paint the shadow of this area. It's really just a mind game, right? Like it's not that one way is necessarily easier than the other. It's more just like what is like working with my brain in that moment to figure out that shape, or what shape makes more sense to me, right? Like is the light shape making more sense to the shadow shape, even though they're basically just inverses of each other. It's all just the way that you're thinking about it, and if you can kind of afford yourself the ability to do it either way, that's kind of cool, right? See, now here is where we have the opportunity to like do some cool details, implied details. And then, like, so this is the far side of her head. This is her crown. I know we've been doing like a kind of like a rim light or a light on this, yeah, this other side here to kind of help the forms read, and so I'm sort of now familiar enough with that to think we could probably just put it in as we go. Or at least, feel comfortable indicating it where we think it's helping in the moment. Let's flip this because it's been a while since I've looked at the flip version, and I think these line shadow shapes need to kind of get tinkered with to help them read. I wonder if we catch... It's always the question of, do we show a little bit of the sort of like tackling the head first because it's hard first of all, and once you got a little bit of that face going, it sort of gives like a personality to the whole image, and it's kind of cool, right? Like imagine if we spent all this time just making a cool sword and nothing else had been figured out. I feel like it'd just be really tough to like feel connected to the piece. And that could just be me, though. I'm very much oriented towards like characters and personalities and stuff versus somebody who might be more of like a prop designer or vehicle designer, right, or something like that. I think they might not feel as compelled to get the head figured out early on, but I always do. cool little like clasp. I guess there's I don't know. I can't really tell that there's any specific details needed for the clasp, so we'll just invent some fun little shapes there. Okay. Making some progress. Save your work, everybody. I'm going to be that guy on YouTube. That's how you'll refer to me. There's that guy that tells you to save your work all the time. He's kind of a weird guy, but it's kind of helpful. I don't actually watch him for any of the art content. I just watch him because he reminds me to save my work, and it's helpful. Tinker with that eye for a million hours. It's okay. It's worth it. It's the first thing you're going to look at. It's actually going to be a shadow here, but that's okay. I'll kind of build this up and then we'll knock it back. And here's that medallion thing, which, on a toy, this is like outrageously detailed. And then on in the cartoon, like in the toy, it's this like, I was gonna say it's like a mammoth skull or something. It's got like these tusks. It's crazy. And then in the cartoon, it's that. So maybe we'll find like kind of happy medium. We'll do some kind of like a conch, like a tiered sort of stepped design. So it's medallion like, but it's not an entire mammoth skull on her chest. That's probably not what it is. It's probably something lore wise that I just don't know about, but yeah. Oh, you know what we could do? Is this, yeah, this could probably be a gem. So let's do this. Let's make this dark here. We'll make this light over here. And then we'll put the highlight on top there. We'll do the same thing here. And the same thing over here. Okay, neat. Okay, these are like the kind of cloth-like elements. Actually, do I want to go... I think we want to be... Well, I'm not sure. I guess we could be looking up at the pipe folds. Yeah, we'll look at... Oh, we'll have us looking up at the pipe folds. Now I realize some of this stuff's going to get hidden by the sword and everything, but again, just for the sake of like us understanding what's going on, I'm gonna block it in. There probably does want to be some design stuff going on here. So maybe there's a line there. Maybe we do see light hitting this left side here. Okay, where's the belt medallions? Let's get the belt medallions in place, because that'll kind of help see what's happening down here. Okay, and then I guess there's like a little connecty point between these medallions. A little bit of complex interaction here with that sash, and then I think we'll probably, I mean, this probably just gets lost in shadow down here anyway. So maybe we'll leave it there for the moment. Have some light hitting these pipe folds. It's probably, all this stuff wants to just flow down here in that sort of leotard shape, so let's kind of block that in. Again, this definitely feels like a puzzle, trying to solve a puzzle. Okay, so there's the top of the hand there. Maybe we can just do a quick indication of that. I have to turn this off so I can see where we had the sword handle coming out. Okay, this gets tricky here. Oh my goodness. And what was the shape of the handle? It was, we did like a little pointy bit on the end. The readability of that is pretty rough. We'll have to tinker with the counter change in that area to make sure it still shows up okay. We'll probably want to see some kind of rim light hitting that other part of the hand so it's not completely lost. Guess we can kind of connect this through here now. We can figure out what motif we're going to go for on her her bracers. And I think we want to kind of mimic some of the stuff going on in her head, her crown. So maybe we'll do another triple gem thing. Maybe some shapes kind of flow down like this. I think I want this to taper. You know, it's interesting is I wonder if like the lasso tool might even be a cool way to approach carving some of these shapes in. You know, like we just kind of like cut out a shape and just kind of pop it in. Could be interesting. Definitely gives us some very sharp edges. I want some bounce light showing us the thickness of the form there. And then I guess we can have a little bit of rim light here underneath, or bounce light underneath here. Less lighting on the right side of that bracer, more lighting on the left side. Hi, hey, welcome in. Thank you so much. That is always nice to hear. So I actually do know what the plan is for the next episode. So stay tuned to the end. I will tell you guys what I'm thinking about doing for next time. Spoilers, it is not He-Man. Hopefully you guys will be into it at least a little bit. I guess we can just do kind of a simpler pattern on that. I don't know. We'll see. Not too sure about detailing on those medallions there. And then we gotta get this rear side figured out. This is again where we're gonna have some light coming and hitting over here. So let's get some of that light hitting. You've reached the end of the He-Man characters, you know. Well, and that was sort of part of the reason why I was thinking about moving on from MOTU, because I feel like we've hit all the ones that people are most familiar with. But the funny thing is, I think that the next idea I have is even more obscure. They'd probably nobody's going to know about them, but I'm hoping that it'll be maybe a little bit more interesting from like a design standpoint, because with these we haven't really done a lot of design work with these. There's been a little bit of like tinkering with the design slightly as we implement, but there hasn't been as much conceptual design. And with the next series I want to do, I want to do more of a redesign to some of the originals. So there might be something kind of interesting in it there. Even if you don't know the characters, it'll be interesting to see like, okay, how do we approach, you know, refreshing those designs in some way. Should we do, well, I guess I can keep going with this, this arm over here. And what we probably want to do is we probably want to have that light coming through and like hitting at some point, hitting this arm over here. Right, so yeah, what if we did just sort of like draw with like a lasso shape? Because it's like totally experimental, but like what if we just did some stuff like that? That may not be enough light hitting that form for us to read it. Might have to pull a little more light in there, but that's okay. All right, cool. We'll catch you hopefully next time, Zane. Thanks for dropping in. Here I go back to the crown again, because I realize we probably want to just have a little bit of detail there. She's actually got some pretty like angular. Now that I'm looking at it, her eyebrows actually have a very like arched shape. Like that's kind of like a hallmark uh, thing with her facial features. So let's make sure we get that in there. I feel like we'd be missing an opportunity if we didn't catch that. Let's see if I can get that shape a little bit more worked out there. Might be a little bit too far out. Let's pull that in. the yeah, the like the outer design stuff. Yeah, I spent a little time thinking about how I wanted to kind of set it up, and I wanted it to be just like a little bit fancier than just like the Photoshop UI or whatever. So I made a couple little like overlays. So I painted those up, and then I paid somebody to do some very subtle animations on them, just so they don't feel dead. You know, like just a little bit of life. You don't know if you've ever seen anyone capture just the canvas, but it still tracks with movement. It's the right amount. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's good to hear. Yeah, it's like it's kind of in there. It doesn't like distract, right? You're still like looking at the drawing, but it's just kind of like creating a little bit of ambience. Um, yeah. So the way that I'm doing this is I have like the full Photoshop UI is on my screen. You just can't see it. It's off to the right, so it's chopped off. You can see as I move this over. You see like there's a whole bunch of stuff behind my head that has something in front, so you're not seeing a bunch of Photoshop layers and stuff going on. And then the area around the image is set to a color that I have green screened out in OBS. So everything outside the image is, it looks to you as though it's not there, but it is on my screen. So a little bit of like fun smoke and mirrors going on with that. Let's do the sword. Yeah. The Photoshop background is keyed out exactly. So it's like the area around the card in the layer and the background of the document itself are both the same color key, so they both get keyed out. So that way you see the rounded corner of the card. Yeah, man, no worries. It's something that I think looking at it on the surface you wouldn't really know, right? Like it is intentionally obscure, right? So you're not really seeing the magic behind the curtain or what, however you want to say it. It's like those Disney Imagineers, right? You're like going through the rides and everything's cool, and then like around the corner is like some guy like pushing buttons and monitoring things, and you just never really think about it. Ah, the joy of symmetry in Slice Recorder. Always a treat. I mean, I could. There is another way to do this where I would just draw it flat and then warp it into perspective. I do that. I do that sometimes if I really want to just be super clever about it, but I kind of like practicing just drawing it myself when I can. And the stream is kind of about drawing and that like manual process, appreciating the manual process, so we won't do too many weird shortcuts. guess does that whole, maybe that whole sword just ends up being lit. Feels like the angle of the light kind of hits the whole thing, right? So maybe we don't do too much asymmetry. I mean, oh, maybe just a little bit so you feel the bevel. This sword blade, where does it end? It ends like right here. Okay. I'm going to turn that layer up so I can see this slightly better. Oh yeah, that's better on my eyes. Okay. Just going to lasso this shape. And then we'll erase that center line. Erase some of this bevel on the right side. Maybe a couple little reflection marks on that side. We can always come back and we can add like a slight highlight to the edge. We feel like we're losing too much of it. I feel like that shape is just not quite right. Let's cut it a little bit thinner there. Okay, yeah, that's not too bad. Here again, we maybe use the lasso to just be really bold about a couple little shapes, light shadow shapes. I kind of wish I'd tried doing lasso stuff on the other ones that we did before this. It didn't occur to me, but that's what happens when you do a process a few times, right? You start to unlock new ideas. Your brain is not as taxed on like the primary challenges. You can start to expand into like secondary challenges. Something kind of interesting to me is like indicating edges. Like, is it like, do I like when it has a little bit of like tapered edge? I mean, this is like a huge stylistic choice in the world of, let's say, comic books, where every artist has their own way that they like to sort of taper shadowed edges. Sometimes you get like a little sawtooth pattern. Sometimes it's more like thin lines. Sometimes you get like a sort of a grid-like hatching that dithers. And they all can be effectively used. So when you're working on a new technique, you're figuring stuff out, like those are some stylistic choices that you have to make that you may not initially know where to go with it. You may have to look at other artists and see what you like. And you may change your mind too as you go, as you learn. So that this bracer here like definitely wants to have some cool design work going on. So maybe we'll start to bring in some of that. We might not see any of it here. And I'll just catch a little hint of it. Okay, yeah, that feels a little bit more resolved. Do we put light here? Maybe we do. Let's see. Yeah, I think that works. I'm questioning the mouth shape a little bit. Okay. This area is so like sensitive to light and shadow information that I gotta turn off the underdrawing so I can see if I like what I'm making here or not. Nope. Yeah, see, I keep doing that. I keep wanting to bring some of this eye in, and then like not liking it and taking it back out. I don't know. I'll probably do that again like 10 times. It's fine. All right. Yeah, so we were kind of tinkering with these medallions here. Let's bring in some shadow shape for each one. And maybe there's like a few kind of aerodynamic lines through that area. I guess we should figure out the rest of this sword here. Yeah, you know, there's something that I really like about this shape stuff going on in the blade, like those some of those shapes there that we made with the lasso tool. So I think there's certainly some value in those bigger boulder shapes. Just cutting in and finding a really cool shape to highlight. Yeah. I think I want to just carve out like a pretty big shadow from that handle casting down onto the body, because that is just, it's not going to read unless we have a really big prominent value change there. Big shape for you to latch onto. All right, let's turn the underdrawing back up so we can see what's going on with the legs. So that kind of comes down here like this. And then here like that. Hey, how's it going, man? So let's see. We're going to have to deal with this sword shape against the leg. You know what? I'm going to do this on another layer, because I think what we'll do is we'll just block in the whole leg. And we could even use the lasso tool and just fill this in. Okay, now you can selectively erase away the sword areas. And obviously the hand area. And now we can think about cast shadow off the sword onto the leg. Obviously the leg isn't just going to be a big white shape like that. We're going to get some shading in, but I do want to think about getting some of this cast shadow in. I want to get a little bit of curvature to the shadow so we feel the shape of the leg. Is this looking too complicated? No, I think that's fine. Maybe we'll limit how far it casts off that top section there. You woke up not too long ago? Yeah, takes me a while to be functional after waking up as well. I'm doing good, man. It's going. I'm enjoying this one. This is coming together. It's looking cool, I think. We're unlocking some new ideas with utilizing the lasso tool with this approach. So the hand wants to cast a shadow as well, but then that makes the hand's shape look a little bit humongous. So I have some concerns about that. Gosh, that area gets tricky, doesn't it? Okay, let's see. Maybe we just don't have as much shadow casting there. I mean, some of this stuff you just kind of use some artistic license to make it work. Okay, I'm gonna merge them. I know that's scary, but let's just go for it. Okay, then there's like the knee pad thing that we decided to go with, so I guess I can block that in. Let's see if we can get away with that. Yeah. Oh, it's a tricky one. I kind of like it though. I think it's working. Well, I don't want to lose too much of the leg volume. Let's cut in a little closer here. And then have the leg come back out there. Let's kind of carve this back a little bit here. Let's flip this. I haven't flipped it in a while. Might as well check our work here. So I think I want to cast shadow kind of on the top part of this leg here, so I'll have to pick some point for that leg to come back into the light. Maybe it's there. There's the knee pad. We get the fur on the top of the boot. Okay. Actually, that line there doesn't need to be there. I wonder if we need to show a little bit more shadow on this chin here. with that. Yeah, okay, let's try that. I can lose that line there. Maybe there's a little bit of bounce light from the ground for the shape, the outer shape to read. I guess this wants to be cut in here. Okay, let's work on some boot fur. This is interesting. I wonder if we can do like some fun lasso shapes here. Cool. So let's do that. Let's do that here as well. It's interesting because what it does is I think it adds, well, there's a sharpness to it, but I think it also just kind of creates a little more shape variety. Like you create some shapes that you wouldn't normally think to create. And there's an interesting sort of stacking effect. That's kind of cool as well. Yeah. Huh. It's very interesting. I think I'm going to cut the shadow just a little bit higher. I feel like it's just a little too distracting, that size of that shape there. Yep. Okay, so we have some of the fur in there. Let's figure out the boot here, and I guess we can just erase the shadow at the top of this as a secondary maneuver. Okay, now we can cut this shape out here. get some of those bootstraps in. I wonder, do we want to taper it a little this way? Probably. Okay, we're not done there yet. I'm just sort of like assessing the whole thing, seeing how it's looking as a complete image. The cape idea is something we're sort of adding, and well, I don't know. I mean, there might be some representation of her somewhere where she does have a cape. I don't know. I don't know every piece of media that she's in, but from the common sources that I've looked at, she doesn't seem to have a cape. So we're going to add that, like I said, and because we have this idea of her connection to the sorceress, the falcon and everything, I'm thinking it might be kind of cool maybe if the cloak has feathers on it, right? Like maybe we could do something with that to kind of give a little bit of like a thematic tie in there. I think that might be cool. So I'm going to make a note here. So I don't forget, I'm going to say feathers. And we will get back to that at some point, but I kind of want to get her figured out before we do her cloak. Because the other thing too is if you look, like, this takes up a lot of the image. It's like a nice percentage of the image, and whenever you have a big surface like that, you want to think about, is there something interesting you can do with it? And we don't want to make it too like loud and distracting. Like we don't want it to make the image feel busy, but we also want to sort of take it as a chance to maybe explore some kind of cool textile or some kind of subtle pattern or relief. And there are obviously like different degrees to which we could go with the way we represent the feathers. They could be very big and dramatic, or they could be like something very kind of soft and subtle. And that's why I'm totally cool with playing with that idea, because we can express it with different volumes, like different loudness. A little bit of that rim light on the other side, although that looks a little bit strange. I think that ankle got a little weird in our underdrawing. Cool, that feels better. Cool, man. Yeah, thanks for dropping by. Have a good night. And then we'll obviously have some ground lit here so we can show the shadow casting off of her body to give it, and then we'll probably have the cloak casting a shadow. So we'll have some light hitting there. Let's try not to make that look too gross until we get to it. Just a quick little indication of that going forward. Let's pull her hair down a little bit there on the side. Maybe the rim light on the shield stops right about here. And then we start to catch the light again here on it. Yeah, we don't need to fill in everything, right? We just need to give you enough for your eye to understand how to fill the rest in yourself. Okay, this hand. Let's get to this hand, because I want to get all the major things blocked in for this stream. So let's just draw this hand in here. She doesn't have anything crazy going on with her hands, right? It's just kind of a normal thing going on. No like unique like hand armor or crazy long nails or anything. Okay. Pretty standard. We'll cast shadow off of that, and then we'll have this finger catch the light here. And I'm thinking maybe we have, do we have, playing with the idea that maybe these other fingers catch the light back here as well. Let's see, do I like seeing all of them or not? Maybe we diminish their brightness. All right, we'll probably tinker with that more, but I think that's a reasonable first stab at some light and shadow shapes hitting that hand there. I am not liking this hand shape though. It's looking like a stubby nub hand. Let's try and chill that. I'm gonna probably tinker with that more. we get a little more of that. All right, I think that's an improvement. Okay, so let's see. We got that shield in there. We could probably bring in a little more light hitting the shield. Probably want to see some kind of light hitting the shield from back here, so we see that edge. And then we'll get the cape, of course, getting lit. Actually, we could probably just use a lasso shape. This is going to be feathers at some point, but just for the sake of having the shape present. Wow, terrible lasso. Good job. Okay, there we go. I'll just bring this in. For us to take a look at it. So that, yeah, okay, so I may change the shape of that from how we had it in the underdrawing. I may go for a shape more like that. And then I don't know if we're going to see a lot. Maybe we just catch a little bit of it down here. We got to figure out something to do with the background. Probably some kind of cool, like, some kind of cool terrain. Something that frames the falcon, right? Because the falcon's going to be big back here. So we'll probably do something like that. And again, we want to make sure we get the shadow casting off the blade there. As you guys know from the other streams, you'll know that, like, at some point we'll put in some halftones into this, but we don't want to rely on the halftones to make the piece work. We want it to work without the halftones, and then those are just a way to kind of enhance it. So we're going to try our best to get this working in this kind of state. But I think this is a pretty good first stab at this image. I think we got some good things blocked in here. And so I think we'll be poised to do a 2-stream wrap-up on Teela from Masters of the Universe. I hope you enjoyed watching this stage of the image. I hope you've enjoyed the MOTU series thus far. So next stream we'll be working on the remaining portion of this image, wrapping this one up, and then the stream after that, what we're going to do is we're going to redesign or update the villains from the Real Ghostbusters cartoon series, which for me as a kid was one of my favorite cartoons growing up. There's so many episodes, so many great episodes, and so many fun villain designs, different kinds of ghosts and spirits and all kinds of fun characters in there. And you know, they're simpler, they're intended for animation, and I want to sort of think about what would those look like if we were to adapt those to like a modern video game. What could we do with those designs, which I think could be really fun. So that's the idea for the next series, but we won't explore that yet until we finish Teela. So yeah, was that you're feeling like that might be cool? That's good to hear. Yeah, we'll see. We'll play with it. Again, there's so many options. So maybe we'll just start with episode 1 and see what that's got in store for us, and we'll go from there. And we'll see if people are enjoying that. But otherwise, thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Appreciate your support. And yeah, hope you had fun watching this one. And I definitely had fun putting it together. And we'll wrap it up next time. All right. Take care, everybody. And see you then. Bye-bye.